Y'all get ready?
Yes, you get ready.
If you want the latest news in the streets, join us and tune in for the tea. Breaking news with integrity. So tell your friends and your family. It's the Lovelyti TV show, bringing you good tea and good vibes. It's the Lovelyti TV show. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Hey tea sippers, I hope you guys are doing good today. So over the weekend there was a lot of drama here in Minnesota. We had white supremacist Jake Lang here, but then we also had drama at one of our local churches, and this was viral all over Minnesota Facebook and TikTok and stuff like that, but now it's become national news. So if you guys don't know, on Friday Don Lemon had basically took to social media and he announced that he was coming to Minnesota. So I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. We'll see when you get here, Pooh. And so he ends up coming to Minnesota, and he ends up going to this church called City's Church, and it's in St. Paul. And basically he ends up hooking up with this anti-ICE group, and so they had discovered that one of the pastors at this church was an undercover ICE agent by night. And the man's name is Pastor David Easterwood. And so they found out that not only is he a member of ICE, but he's the acting director of the ICE agency in St. Paul, Minnesota. So these protesters were really upset when they found that out. Somehow they connected with Don Lemon and they decided to storm the church. So we're going to go ahead and watch some of these videos right now.
This is an operation that is secret, that they invited folks out.
This is Operation Pull Up, more of a clandestine operation. We show up somewhere, they don't expect us to come there, and then we disrupt business as usual.
So right now it's kind of mayhem. We're not part of the activists, but we're here just reporting on them. Did they explain to you why they're here?
They did not.
They said that there is someone here, Easterwood, someone who is a member of ICE, and he's a pastor of the church.
Our church had gathered for worship, which we do every Sunday. We asked them to leave, and they obviously have not left.
So this is what the First Amendment is about the freedom to protest.
There's varying array of views in this church on politics of immigration. Recognize the complexity of the issue.
This shows you just how divided America is. When you look at the protesters here, and then you look at the people there who are praying, and you know what was the interesting thing? If these two groups could just get together, they might figure out what to do.
I don't necessarily agree with everything that's going on in the Twin Cities right now, but I don't think it's good to fight fire with fire. I think it's good to speak up. I think it's good to protest, but I think it's better to do it in a peaceful way.
Yeah, that was interesting to watch. This guy here, look, he's hugging his kid. And, you know, I imagine it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. They think you lost and this didn't accomplish anything, and you went into their house, the house of the Lord.
The reality is the house of the Lord is the place where love lives. It's not a place where you can have a pastor masquerading as the director for the field office of ICE in St. Paul.
So that was just one of the videos. I'm going to go ahead and play you guys a few more videos as well.
Easterwood is a pastor here. He is also the director of the field office for ICE in St. Paul. So someone who claims to worship God, teaching people in this church about God, is out there overseeing ICE agents. Think about what we've experienced. The murder of Renee Good at the hands of ICE. A Venezuelan national shot by ICE. A 6-month-old baby who almost died as a result of ICE unleashing military-grade weapons on our community. How dare you claim to be a pastor of God and you are involved in evil in our community?
Do you think Jesus would be understanding?
We're about worship.
These folks.
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them?
No, church had gathered for worship, which we do every Sunday, and we were interrupted by this group of protesters. Yeah. We asked them to leave, and they obviously have not left.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. So,
but there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here. Yes. Okay, that's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay,
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. Yeah. We're here to worship. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, so you guys just saw that video of Don Lemon talking to the pastor. You guys just heard from the black woman who was leading that protest. So this went viral all over social media, and Nicki Minaj decided to respond to Don Lemon about this, and she went off. I'm going to go ahead and read to you guys what Nicki Minaj had to say. So Nicki Minaj says, Don cock-sucking Lemon is disgusting. How dare you? I want that thug in jail. He would never do that to any other religion. Lock him up. Then she proceeds to basically retweet one of her barbs, and she says the following. The barb does. Majesty Elite says, this is the same man that goes home every day to his white husband, yet parades himself as pro-black, questioning black people's authenticity and telling others to prove their blackness while feeling bold enough to speak on Nicki Minaj. This is an alcoholic who is fired from a 17-year career because of long documented patterns of misogyny, hostility, disturbing behavior, multiple women, workplace culture where he engaged in aggressive, abusive, and violent behavior, including incidents where his colleagues said they felt threatened, intimidated, or physically unsafe, and added that he joked at Bill Cosby's victim and asked her why she didn't use teeth. Then the person continues by saying this, and yes, allegations of abuse towards women and men have followed him publicly for years, especially after a bartender said he was harassed by him in 2019. Major anti-Semitism awareness organizations publicly condemned him after he stated that black and brown Jews don't exist, erasing entire communities and histories in one sentence, something he was called out for immediately. Lock him up. Then Nicki Minaj retweets that person and she says true or false. So now after that went viral, the DOJ then went onto Twitter and said that they're going to put Don Lemon under investigation. So we're going to go ahead and watch this first clip about the DOJ and Don Lemon.
Former CNN anchor Don Lemon has been warned by the Justice Department over allegations he joined a swarm of anti-ICE protesters who burst into a Minnesota church in the middle of Sunday service and accused a pastor of working with ICE. Lemon, who has been documenting the increasingly violent protests following the shooting of Renee Nicole Good, live-streamed himself alongside demonstrators with the Racial Justice Network storming into the city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota, as they called out resident pastor David Eastwood, whom they accused of moonlighting as the acting field office director for ICE in the North Star State. David Eastwood is listed as an employee with the local field office. However, the Post could not independently confirm whether he was the same person who heads up city's church. Eastwood was not at the Sunday service. Some service disruptors chanted slogans heard at the dozens of other protests that have wreaked havoc around Minneapolis.
Justice for
while others specifically slandered Eastwood for supposedly misrepresenting the ideals of his faith through his support for ICE. Lemon spoke with the congregation's lead pastor, Jonathan Parnell, who said the bombardment was shameful.
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
The Department of Justice is probing the demonstration at the church for potential violation of civil rights laws, specifically for interfering with Christian worshipers, according to a post on X. Harmeet Dillon, the Justice Department's Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, chided Lemon on social media. A house of worship is not a public forum for your protests. It is a space protected from exactly such acts by federal, criminal, and civil laws, nor does the First Amendment protect your pseudo-journalism of disrupting a prayer service. You are on notice, she wrote. In a follow-up post, she noted that the FBI has been activated and accused the protesters of desecrating a house of worship. Lemon has dismissed calls for him to be prosecuted for joining in with the group and defended his actions as protected under the First Amendment. The MAGA administration and the fake news MAGAs are losing their mind over something that's not even true, Lemon said, claiming he had no affiliations with the organization, defending his actions as, quote, an act of journalism.
All right, so you guys just saw that video of what the DOJ is saying. So now the woman who led the protest, she's been identified as Nakima Armstrong. And I guess what you can call an interview. She kind of went off, accused the newscasters of gaslighting. But the interview is very interesting, so we're going to go ahead and watch this interview with News Nation right now.
Start this Martin Luther King Day monitoring the tense situation in Minneapolis, where some 1,500 troops could soon be deployed amid ongoing unrest. This as several hotels across the Twin Cities, including some housing federal officers, are closing down due to bomb threats. Those threats coming following a weekend of escalating tensions between protesters, law enforcement, and agitators. Agitators who have descended on the city to capitalize on the unrest and create social media content. One far-right influencer holding an anti-immigration rally, leading to a chaotic confrontation on the streets of. We do start this Martin Luther King Day monitoring the tense situation in Minneapolis, where some 1,500 troops could soon be deployed amid ongoing unrest. This as several hotels across the Twin Cities, including some housing federal officers, are closing down due to bomb threats. Those threats coming following a weekend of escalating tensions between protesters, law enforcement, and agitators. Agitators who have descended on the city to capitalize on the unrest and create social media content. One far-right influencer holding an anti-immigration rally, leading to a chaotic confrontation on the streets of downtown Minneapolis and further destabilizing the situation. But one of the most shocking moments from the weekend coming yesterday when protesters entered a church where an ICE agent allegedly serves as a pastor and disrupted the service.
United with the protesters. Why are you not standing up with your Latino Tuesday? The house of the devil.
The Department of Justice is now saying it is investigating that group for potentially violating the churchgoers' rights to exercise their freedom of religion. And now the Department of War saying it is readying 1,500 active duty troops to deploy to the area if President Trump decides to invoke the Insurrection Act, something the city's mayor is speaking out against on NBC's Meet the Press just yesterday.
In Minneapolis, crime is dramatically down. We don't need more federal agents to keep people safe. We are safe. Violent crime is down. Shootings are down. Carjackings are down in virtually every category, in virtually every neighborhood in the city. You know what's causing more chaos? Having these thousands of ICE agents and border control and apparently military even potentially on our streets.
News Nation has been on the ground since the very beginning of these protests. We continue to be there today. Mills Hayes, live in Minneapolis. Mills, we were just here live together about 12 hours ago. I just checked. It is -4 degrees where you are right now. What are you monitoring today?
Hi, Natasha. We're actually in St. Paul outside of the church where that protest happened yesterday. St. Paul police telling me that about 30 to 40 protesters interrupted the church service Sunday morning and that they did receive multiple 911 calls when this happened. People confused about exactly what was going on. Now, this protest happened early Sunday morning. The group going inside the church, interrupting the services and chanting things like justice for Renee Good, ICE out for good, hands up, don't shoot. And we could hear some of those protesters asking people if they supported ICE. And it appears that they were targeting the church because they believe that one of the pastors was a local ICE official.
You like ICE? No, sir.
I understand that what is happening is wrong, and I agree with that, but this can't happen. This is the house of the Lord. To do this is unjust.
Attorney General Pam Bondi says she spoke with the pastor of that church, saying that she's prepared to use the full force of federal law on attacks against law enforcement and the intimidation of Christians. The congregation's lead pastor said interruptions were shameful and asked anyone who wasn't worshiping to leave. ICE posting on X that agitators are going from hotel to hotel, church to church, hunting for federal law enforcement who are risking their lives to protect officers. Meanwhile, I did speak with one of the organizers of the event. Take a listen.
Do you guys feel like perhaps maybe you went too far? I know that there was one guy
Absolutely not. Listen. I'm not going to go down this line of questioning with you. This is gaslighting. Who has gone too far is Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, and the people who run ICE.
She tells me that they're not worried about the Department of Justice investigating them because they investigate everyone. That's what she said. And she also says that they feel like the media focusing on this is gaslighting the American people about what's happening here. Now, we also do know DHS sources confirming that an ICE supervisor is one of the pastors at this church here, Natasha.
All right, so you guys just watched that clip. So it looks like, regardless of the situation, they were correct. There is an ICE agent there at that particular church who is a pastor. So Nakima was not lying about that, but a lot of people are not feeling the way they went about it. Okay, so now Don Lemon has decided to respond back to Nicki Minaj and what she had to say to him earlier today. So we're gonna go ahead and watch Don Lemon, what he has to say.
People have been asking me about responding to Nicki Minaj's unhinged homophobic tweet about me. I usually don't respond to this stuff, but let me just say this. Nicki Minaj, stop talking about shit for which you know nothing about. This is you're out of your depth, by the way, and you are a homophobic bigot. You don't care about African Americans, and you're not an African American. From what I know, you are reportedly an undocumented citizen, so you should be deported under Donald Trump's rules. And the other thing is that your family members, you have one family member who is reportedly a sex offender, the other family member, your husband or whatever, a sex offender is your husband, and one of them is reportedly a pedophile. And you have nerve to talk about me and what you think that I do? Nicki Minaj, get a life. Stop being a pick-me. You should have put a pick-me doll on that damn tweet instead of a Chucky doll, because you are nothing but a pick-me. And I choose not to pick you. And so should black people and so should gay people. Shouldn't buy your music. Clock that. So people have been asking me about...
Well, damn. Okay, this new Don Lemon said, clock that. He's not playing. He's like, okay, I'm by myself. I have no CNN. I'm not worried about no sponsors. I'm replying back and I'm going in. So this whole drama with him and this group that he went into that church with, a lot of people have opinions about it on TikTok. So we're going to go ahead and watch some of those opinions as well.
When it comes to interrupting people's place of worship, can you think of any other religion they would dare do this to besides Christians? I'll wait for your response.
So y'all mad that Don Lemon went into a church where the preacher is an ICE agent, but not mad at the preacher for being an ICE agent. So y'all telling me Monday through Saturday he goes, he violates people's constitutional rights, busts a few people upside the head, acts very racist, because I'm assuming, if you're black or brown, he's like, hey, you don't belong here. And then on Sunday he grabs the Bible and preaches, and y'all mad at Don Lemon? Can y'all make it make sense?
I honestly think Don Lemon is more so trying to convince himself that he still aligns with Christ more than us, because the difference in rhetoric between him and that pastor was like night and day. When you watch that video, notice who the pastor was trying to bring the attention to versus Don Lemon. The pastor was trying to bring people's attention back to Jesus Christ and worshiping Jesus Christ. Don Lemon was trying to bring their attention to the protests. I'm not going to argue with anybody about the legality of what happened with Don Lemon and those protesters. It was illegal. It violated the free exercise clause. Don Lemon goes on his page and say, oh, well, I wasn't part of the protest. Are you sure? We definitely couldn't tell.
That man, that Mr. Lemon, thought that was a good idea to do that.
So it sounds like Don Lemon might be in a little bit of hot water with the Justice Department for what he did yesterday in Minnesota.
The freedom of the press extends to a lot of different areas. It does not extend to somebody just trespassing and being embedded with a group of rioters and being part of the group that storms inside of a church.
You see, Don is trying to hide under freedom of the press, but as you heard Deputy AG Todd Blanche say, it doesn't cover Don. So while he's busy having a good old time dancing, these people that were trying to celebrate their religion, worship, whatever you want to call it, they didn't get that right because Don and a bunch of protesters decided to impede their First Amendment rights. So, there was a group of elderly ladies that were protesting an abortion clinic, and they received like 40 years in prison just for protesting.
You're not a journalist, you're a podcaster, dude. You got fired from You're not a journalist, you're a podcaster, dude. You got fired from CNN years ago. I don't even know how many years it's been. I don't know if your little hubby writes your checks every 2 weeks and it makes you confused about where you're working, but you work for yourself, for your own little podcasting show, and you do interviews and stuff, and because people know your face, you get to go into some spaces, but journalistic laws or things, even though it doesn't really apply in this particular, it doesn't apply to you, period. Okay? Stop quoting I'm a journalist. I've got rights to go in and capture a story. You're a podcaster. Okay? So by your terms, we are all journalists. Everybody on this app is a journalist. And we can do exactly what you did and just walk up everywhere and ask people questions and decide to make them our today's storyline and topic. Okay? I just need you to understand you work for nobody. Okay? You don't have journalistic.
They're trying to paint Don Lemon as a gay man going into a church full of Christians trying to terrorize them in their hour of prayer, when in reality, he simply was outside trying to be, the independent journalist that he is, figuring out why there's protesters inside screaming ICE out. Eventually, he did figure out it was because, allegedly by Don Lemon. He walked in there and he heard from a random bystander, he heard that someone possibly was a pastor and also a field office director for ICE. Me personally, when he first initially heard that, I saw the live. If you want to go watch the live stream, it was yesterday. It's on YouTube. Go watch it. When I initially first heard that, I typed his name in, David Easterwood. He popped up, yes, on City Church's pastor leadership board and also as the field ICE director. So Don did not know that at that time. So he walked in the church to gather more information. He went to the lead pastor and asked him, did you hear anything about your pastor possibly working for ICE? He said, look, listen, this is an hour of worship. We are a church and we're trying to have an hour of worship. This is unacceptable. This is shameful. But Don was like, I'm a Christian and I absolutely understand, but don't you think it's a concern that this could possibly be true? And the guy's like, this is an hour of worship. We don't want to worry about this is the house of God. Da 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 da. So Don was like, okay, I respect that. Thank you. And the pastor was trying to push him away. And Don was like, respectfully, don't push me, right? I'm just trying to ask questions. I'm a Christian. I understand. Don went on his own merry way, and then he went outside to talk to Nakima Levy-Armstrong, who was basically letting us know, go on the City Church's website and you'll see this man's face on there. That's it. This is public information. There is news. There's a fake right-wing news outlet on Twitter, And you have Nicki Minaj co-signing this weird shit, throwing homophobic slurs at Don Lemon like that has anything to do with his journalism. And then you have some weird journalistic outlet, Hindustan journalism, basically saying Don Lemon leading a protest in a church. That was not true.
Oh, Donnie boy, your booty cheek must be clenching real bad right now, knowing that the DOJ is coming after you. Listen, boy, you are not getting out of this one, because in this very video, you knew exactly where you were going and what you were doing. You stated you couldn't disclose the location until it aired.
I'm speaking to an organization there that's gearing up for resistance and protest. I've been pleasantly surprised to see the community coming together. Diverse community. If you see this, when we first pulled up, we're like, wait a minute, which operation are we at? And as it turns out, because we were like, well, this is kind of MAGA coded, right? Saw the American flag or whatever, but these are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up. And it's Sakima Armstrong, and she has been doing this since George Floyd, Dante Wright, and others, where they surprise people, catch them off guard, and hold them to account. And so that's what we're doing here. And then after we do this operation, you'll see it live. And these operations are surprise operations. Again, I can't tell you where they're going.
So now you know that the DOJ is coming after you, so you put out this video?
And the fake news magas are losing their mind over something that's not even true. So let me just make it clear, because this assistant attorney general, I don't know, what's her name? Something Hammett, Gillen or whatever. So I had no affiliation to that organization.
No?
I didn't even know they were going to this church until we followed them there. We were there chronicling protests. Once the protest started in the church, we did an act of journalism, which was report on it and talk to the people who were involved, which included the pastor, members of the church, and members of the organization. That's it.
See, Donnie boy, I would buy the shit you were selling had you not used one word, and that one key word is we. In the video, you collectively, your entire group, knew exactly what the plan was, where you were going, and what you were doing. You yourself participated in something that was not okay. And now the DOJ is coming after you. Good luck. Clench.
Let me tell you something. Don Lemon and them went to the right church. You hear me? Let me tell you something. I personally am sick and tired of non-believers taking advantage of the kind nature of Christians. Y'all can't even draw Muhammad on a picture nowhere, but y'all can disrespect the church whenever you feel like it. Personally, I feel like us spicy Christians, those of us who are saved, but we have a lot of exercising to do. I believe it's time for us to have a lot of Peter-like energy when it comes to our Lord and Savior in these holy houses, because I wish some protesters would have come into my church when I'm enjoying a service. Pastor wouldn't have been able to stop me. We would have been moving pews around there. Let me tell you something, Don.
No, y'all, because Don Lemon, ever since he's been off of CNN, that man is unhinged in a new level that I've never even seen. Okay, he has his own his own show, and I love it so much. Same for Joy Reid, love her show too. I'm so glad that a certain Trinidadian immigrant who coddles and is a very much Uncle Tom who supports that orange man in office alongside Erica Kirk. I'm glad that Don Lemon read her for filth. He said to her, look at the history of you. You're going to sit up here and say that Don Lemon storming into a church and exposing that pastor for being an ICE agent also, but you're claiming to be a pastor. And you could tell when Don Lemon was speaking to him that he was shook. He didn't know what to do.
Why is Nicki Minaj calling for Don Lemon to be arrested as if she's a U.S. citizen? As if she came into this country legally?
I thought Nicki would be taking a break to start the year because of how the year ended for her last year, but I was wrong. And this time she's coming for Don Lemon and saying that he needs to be put in jail. For those of you who are unaware, the reason that she thinks that Don Lemon needs to be placed in jail is because he was doing his job and covering a story as a journalist in Minnesota. Don Lemon was covering a protest that was happening outside of a church because the pastor of the church, I believe, is in support of what is going on in Minnesota. Now, that seemed to piss Nicki Minaj off because she is on this whole Christian tour where she is celebrating Christianity and wanting people who in any way are disrupting Christianity to be persecuted, I guess. But my question is, and will continue to be, is whether or not you believe that people who are of the Christian faith should be supporting what is happening. And I know the answer to that question might be yes, given the fact that Nicki Minaj sat in front of Erica Kirk and praised everything that was happening with this current administration. A lot of this just feels like one big contradiction, if you ask me.
All right, so you guys saw some of those TikTok reactions. It's definitely split. Half the people think that Don Lemon is all the way wrong for that, even if he wasn't a part of the protest, him being there, and they want him arrested. Other people are like, you know what? You know, he's a journalist. He was using his journalistic, freedom. And Nicki Minaj is just doing the most. So it's very interesting how it's very, very split on social media. So like I said, it's been a lot of stuff going on in Minnesota, a lot of controversial things. Do I agree with somebody storming into a church? No, I think they should have waited outside of the church and then confronted who they needed to confront, because we've been dealing with so many things in Minnesota. Remember, a private school that was, hosted in a church, there was a shooting at the beginning of the school year. So a lot of people who left the church said they were scared. They didn't know what was going on. And usually places of worship are supposed to be free zones. But I would also like to mention that, ICE should also not be going into places of worship either, because we've all seen videos online of ICE going into churches and arresting people. I think when they try and arrest people that are at church, they should wait until they come out of the church as well. If it's going to be good for the goose, it should be good for the gander. No, I don't think protesters should be bursting into churches, but also neither should ICE agents. So tea sippers, I leave the conversation up to you guys. Let's go ahead and get the discussion popping. Go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on all of this craziness that's going on in Minnesota that happened on Sunday with Don Lemon and Nikema. And how do you feel about what Nicki Minaj had to say? And how do you feel about Don Lemon's clapback? I look forward to reading y'all's comments. Please hit this video with a like. Feel free to share the video, and I'll talk to y'all later. Deuces.
If you want the latest news in the streets, join us and tune in for the tea. Breaking news with integrity. So tell your friends and your family. It's the Lovelyti TV show, bringing you good tea and good vibes. It's the Lovelyti TV show. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe.